The Chris Johnston Show.
Let's go!
Your number one destination for a behind-the-scenes look at the game of hockey.
Is this thing on?
Here's NHL insider Chris Johnston and host Julian McKenzie.
CJ, we're getting close to a brand new year. 2025 is coming to a close. 2026 is on the way. So I think now is a perfect time to look back on the year that was with the 10 best things about the NHL in 2025. But here's something fun I think we should do. I'm going to mention one, and then you're going to mention one. We have not told each other what things we have written on our respective lists. We're just going to find a way to get to 1 through 10 on our own and surprise each other with the different topics that we've chosen. There may be some overlap, there may not be, but this could be fun regardless.
Yeah, I've written down 7 to account for my 5 because I'm anticipating some overlap, and so I might just veto one on the fly. I'm telling you, the strategy of this, I don't know why in my brain, I'm like, do I throw out my most random ones early? Like the ones that just to like get them on the board? Or do I go to the ones where I think you're likely to have something similar and try to get that out early so then you have to scramble? So my strategy in unveiling this, because we're not really doing it in a particular order.
No.
Is I'm not sure how I'm going to approach this, but I think it was actually a neat exercise before we turn the mics on for me to sit down and like think back on the year, like what I connected with, what I remember the most, this is a highly personal list. This isn't meant to be the definitive list, but I think it'll be a fun episode.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm going to start, and I understand that this event is, well, I mean, it has NHL players in it. The NHL got in on this. This is very much an NHL thing, and it is the thing that captivated the hockey world in a way I hadn't seen in a long, long, long time. The Four Nations face-off, seeing this tournament like flip the hockey world on its head and surprise people at how much people got into those tournament games. Yes, there was a political side to it too, with the threat of annexation and the booing of the U.S. anthem. That played a massive role as to why people got powered up as much as they did. But the games themselves were entertaining. And to get the final we got of Canada versus the United States before Canada gets the job done in overtime, that's some of the best hockey we've seen. Just when you combine the level of skill, the best on best, the drama, the storylines. I didn't even mention the USA-Canada game where we had those fights in the first 9 seconds. Like the Tkachuk brothers are still eating off of that moment. For me, that was a jaw-dropping, incredible couple of days following that tournament. And you have to show love to Sweden and Finland as well, who were part of that tournament. And they played some really great games too. But to see Canada and US on that stage and to not only have the hockey world entertained, but people adjacent and outside of that world taking an interest in the NHL at that point, in an interest in hockey at that point, to me, that is arguably the coolest thing we've seen from this sport on the men's side in 2025.
No arguments for me, right? But I got to tell you, what's number one on the personal list I did, and I'm debating, can I still throw it out here as our number 2 item? I'm going to do it. This is how I have it recorded. 3 fights in 9 seconds on February 16th.
Okay, so you got the specific moment there.
Yeah, and I realize that this is not, I'm not going to look too progressive by highlighting this. But I don't think I'm putting too fine a point on it to say that of the many thousands or certainly hundreds, but even thousands of nights I've spent in arenas watching hockey, I'm not sure I've ever seen anything that quite matched that moment. There's been bigger goals and more important things that happened, but like the feeling in the arena, a Saturday night at the Bell Center, which is my absolute favorite place to go for a game, the anticipation being so high for that matchup, and then for that to happen, I mean,
yeah.
Like I want to get all romantic about the skill. Like I could have just as easy, I guess I could have been like McDavid in overtime, but no, I'm going there, man. Might have been my, like one of the things I like the most about hockey in 2025, believe it or not, is 3 fights in 9 seconds. And I'm not a huge fight guy as a rule. I'm not arguing for stage fighting to come back. I think it's fighting is kind of in the place it should be in hockey, which is basically trending down towards close to nothing. But in that specific moment, I don't think we'll ever see that again. We certainly aren't going to see it at the upcoming Olympics because international rules forbid it. I don't think you could stage it again in the future. Like, it might feel contrived if it happened, but in that moment, it was crazy. It was the most talked about thing. I think even more than any of the things you mentioned about the tournament, I think that's quite frankly what elevated it beyond something that got hockey fans excited to something that people don't even know the sport are like, what is this?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm using that as my first of my 5 selections, even though it is very close to yours.
So I can say that I can kind of jig mine up and say the tournament final, and you can get the 3 fights you could get the 3 fights.
Yeah.
We could do that.
I came into this knowing, obviously, we were going to talk some Four Nations. Hey, there might be more Four Nations things. Who knows? But for me, when I really looked close at it, I was like, the fights, those just the start to that game, the atmosphere, the moment, how you never seen that before. You got both Tkachuk brothers. The only way it might have been better is if 2 teammates from the NHL fought. Like if it had been Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett, just to name a possibility. Because remember the last thing I'll say on this before we move forward. Remember the talk heading into that tournament was like, are the players going to give a shit? Yeah. That was legit a talking point. I mean, I think we saw it actually in the first game, Canada-Sweden. It was pretty clear the players cared and it was played at a high level. But seeing that happen, I think answered it beyond any reasonable doubt that the players were invested in making sure this was a meaningful hockey event.
As someone who can feel very conflicted watching fights, I very much understand the dangers of it. I remember watching that from my couch and just getting up and just jumping up and down and being like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, I can't think of too many other moments watching hockey where I've reacted in that way. You just don't see that. I don't know if you'll ever see that again.
No. And that's why it's on our everlasting list of best things of 2025.
Yes. Let's continue to move down the list. The next thing for me, it might be on your list too, but following the Alexander Ovechkin goal record, and seeing him breaking it against the New York Islanders, that was a really cool moment to see. And just for me, it's like obviously the moment, him scoring that goal, great goal against the New York Islanders, but seeing him get closer and closer to breaking that record, whether you're watching him play at home in Washington and you're looking at him on a power play and you're thinking, oh man, this might be the moment, or the times he was in Ottawa and I got to watch some goals up close. Those were some really cool moments to see the greatest goal scorer in the history of the game get closer and closer to a record that people thought for a long time would never be broken. And to me, that was a really fun ride, especially at the end. So I'm going to put that up on my list.
Yeah, that was neat. It was that he suffered the broken leg in the season. It was against the odds, I think, in some ways, that he'd score the goals, the amount he needed to get there. And then the way he celebrated it, the belly flop was pretty perfect right before the end of the year. No argument for me. My next one is maybe shifting the tone a little. Mm-hmm. But when I really thought back on the year, I was like, one thing that stands out to me that I think was special was the way the hockey world wrapped its arms around the Gaudreau family. Yeah. And, obviously the tragedy that cost Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew their lives happened in 2024 in August, late August. But I thought it was pretty touching the way you see it in the small things the Blue Jackets continue to do. But even, Team USA at the World Junior Tournament where they won another gold medal, or at the Four Nations, they had Guy Gaudreau, Johnny's dad, came in and spoke to the team before that tournament. They had the outdoor game at Ohio State, and his family and his wife, Johnny's wife, played a huge role in that and was, in the locker room. I just thought really top to bottom, to me, one of the things, as much as, look, nothing is perfect, but I do think the hockey world is a pretty small place. I think people try to look after each other by and large. And I think some of the best of what I think of this sport and this league was shown just in the, the love and the outpouring of continued support for that family. I frankly, I hope it continues. I think, one thing you hear about people that go through tragedy, obviously in the early days, there's lots of focus on it and people are sending you their condolences, but the problem is eventually the world does move on to a certain degree. And obviously that loss sits with you when you love someone. And that family obviously suffered a loss none of us could still imagine. But, so I hope it continues. But I thought, I commend both the family for being so open to it and talking about it still and, being featured even in the Amazon documentary. I mean, they continue to sort of leave themselves vulnerable. And I thought the hockey world did our best. I don't mean me and you, but I mean the collective, all of us, to support that family through 2025. And, I just remember a lot of those moments, especially at the outdoor game, early in the year that I thought really a nice job to keep the Gaudreaus at the front of our minds. Yeah,
I think that's really well said. And I just like you, I very much hope that we continue to honor the Gaudreaus, even though they're no longer with us. We should also mention the Team USA group that won the World Championship in the spring as well. They also had a Johnny Gaudreau jersey with them. I thought that was a really good moment as well. But yeah, I like that being mentioned on our list. One other thing I like being mentioned on our list, coming in at number 5. Following the Calder Trophy race from the 2024-2025 season, in which we saw Matvei Michkov, Dustin Wolf, Macklin Celebrini, and the eventual Calder Trophy winner Lane Hutson compete for my money, the best Calder Trophy race I've seen in quite some time. It's been quite some time where we've seen, I think, that many players have that legitimate of a chance for Rookie of the Year. And you could make arguments for just about every single one of those players that I just mentioned. It's wild that Macklin Celebrini, we've talked about him as much as we have on the podcast and the step that he's done, but he was not the winner of the Calder Trophy that year because Dustin Wolf was incredible for Calgary and almost single-handedly brought his team to the postseason. And then Lane Hutson, this revelatory player for the Montreal Canadiens in terms of his skating and his offensive ability, and he got himself paid later on in 2025 too. We don't forget about that. But Lane Hutson, for him to win that was such an incredible race from start to finish. And again, you could make cases for just about all 4 of those players to win Rookie of the Year. That was super fun to follow down the stretch.
Do you think we got it wrong?
What do you mean?
I mean, should it have been Celebrini or should it?
I mean,
we have the benefit.
We're talking
now,
about it for the year,
but we have the benefit of more. We've seen more, since the award was given out. I'm just look. You could say definitively no. Like, I'm just curious what you think.
Here's the thing: the award is for the best Rookie of the Year. If we're looking at best player among those 4 now, I think it's pretty clear who the best player is in Macklin Celebrini, and then you can argue with whoever you want to about second, third, and fourth. But I think for the season we just had, I think Lane Hutson was deserving, and I have time for people who want to come up and say Dustin Wolf was just as deserving. I don't necessarily think we got that wrong.
Right. I just
Do you
wrestle
think we
with
got it wrong?
No, I'm open to the conversation that we might have got it wrong, but I don't think we got it wrong. And there's an important distinction there. I find it interesting with the Calder Trophy. So often the very best players of a given rookie class don't win the award, right? Sidney Crosby didn't win it. I don't believe Connor McDavid won it. Now he suffered an injury as a rookie. But in Connor McDavid's rookie year, I remember sitting over my ballot. I'm pretty sure that was the year Panarin won it. I'm sorry, I should have looked this up, but obviously I didn't know you were going to pull this. But I remember thinking Connor McDavid is the best rookie from this year. It was no debate, but he only played 40 games, give or take. And he obviously didn't have a point total that matched the other players. I'm just sitting here because, Macklin Celebrini to me looks like someone who could be one of the next best, actual best player in the world type of guys. He's got to get through McKinnon and McDavid but that's his ceiling. and he finished third, I believe, in the voting. So just food for thought.
Yeah, it's not like we completely ignored Connor McDavid as a finalist for that honor. But yeah, the fact that he got hurt as much as he did, like that hurt him for that trophy. But we all know who the best player, if you look at everyone who got votes from that year's Calder Memorial Trophy race, we all know who the best player is right now. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty confident in saying the player most likely to have the best career that was a rookie in 24-25 will be Celebrini. But I realize that's not what we're voting on. I'm curious what you thought. I'm pretty sure, did Wayne Gretzky not win the Calder either, I think?
No, I don't think he's ever won the Calder Trophy, no.
So, you only get one chance to win it, right? It's interesting how many of like the GOAT type of players, I'm not saying for sure Celebrini is going to be that. He's just trending in that direction where he could be, that don't win it that year. Something to think about when we got to vote for it again. I really struggle with that award because of the difference in ages and rookies. And, some players have played like 3 or 4 years of pro somewhere else and others are literally 18 and it's a tough award. I mean, they all are. Let's be honest. I had Celebrini on my list. I think maybe that's not enough. I'll go off the board actually.
Okay.
With the number 6 selection.
Okay.
I'm going to give you Morgan Geekie.
Oh, okay. And
this is a hipster pick.
This is a hipster pick.
I'm calling my own number on that. But you could win a bet, I suspect, in the next few days if you see your friends, your New Year's revelations, and say, which NHL player scored the most goals in calendar year 2025? And I don't think very many would get you to Morgan Geekie.
Wait. He scored the most goals for 2025?
Yes.
What?
He passed 50, Julian. And we're talking about a guy, and I say this with respect, on his third organization, was part of the Seattle Kraken's expansion draft selections, wasn't tendered a qualifying offer. So first of all, Carolina didn't protect him as a young player. Seattle got him, didn't tender him a qualifying offer, make him a UFA, ends up in Boston. Even the extension he signed in Boston last summer, I mean, good money deal, but it's already looking like not a great deal for him just because he continues to raise the ceiling. And so I think it's cool, that we celebrate the superstars in the sport, of course. But, when someone comes along and does something that no one could have guessed, or in this case, I'm not sure anyone's even going to know about it in your friend group. But barring a monster last couple days of the calendar from someone else, it does appear that Morgan Geekie is going to finish as the top goal scorer for calendar year 2025. Perhaps at worst, he finishes second if someone surges by him here in the last couple days. But, this has been a year to remember where he's changed what he can be as a player. And quite honestly, I think he's helped change what the Bruins can be because, as they shifted out all those veteran players and replenished their system, I think that there was reason to wonder if there'd be enough around the Pasternaks and the McAvoys and the Swaymans to keep pushing this group forward. And I think he's answered that pretty resoundingly. Yes. He's emerged as another difference maker for that team. And as a result, the team that you heard it here on the CJ show is going to finish 8th in the Atlantic Division. We're getting to the new year and they've got a very real chance to make the playoffs still.
That is as hipster of a thing as I've ever, it's weird to say hipster because that stat has blown my mind of him scoring the most goals of anyone in the calendar year 2025. So I don't know if that truly makes it hipster. I just don't know you as a hipster person.
Beware when I actually do homework for an episode. You know what I mean? Like when I actually
scare the hell out of me when you do.
When I actually think about something and start crunching numbers or looking at, this one was, I tried to approach this, I have to say, for those that are wondering like how you do this. Like my first thought is like, what are the things like just off the top of my head? If someone said hockey in 2025, what do you most remember? And then, of course, that probably some of the things we've said already. And then I was like, but I want to dig into this and be like, what should we remember? Or what maybe did we kind of like miss before our eyes? Or anyway, there's no perfect way to do this, but I thought Morgan Geekie deserved it's kind of a stick tap amongst our top 10 here. As you know, we love to give out the stick taps on the CJ show.
I love that. I honestly love that. Macklin Celebrini is again on my list, so I am going to take the opportunity to go at him again as we, I believe we get to number 7 at this point on the list. But I'm also going to lump in Connor Bedard. And I know that this is a situation where like, both guys are knowingly just like, hey, I'm going to try to get the spot on Team Canada over you. And maybe not too many people build it as Celebrini versus Bedard, but we did. And I think throughout the first few weeks of the 25-26 season, seeing Macklin Celebrini get to the level that he's been at, and Connor Bedard, up until that unfortunate injury from a couple days ago, seeing his reemergence and doing everything he can to make a point for himself to be on that Canadian Olympic team. And if you want to throw in Matthew Schaefer on that too, I think it is so cool that for Hockey Canada, where in the past, it seems as if they might be averse to having these young players, the fact that it has turned into a genuine discussion online and genuine cases being made. And if you go back to an episode we did a couple of days ago, you seem pretty confident about Macklin Celebrini being on that team. Like, we not only are we going to get best on best, pending the construction of the rink, but we may very well see the right young talent on for Team Canada, and to see Celebrini and Bedard show that they deserve to be considered for that team with the goals that they've scored, the way that they've played, the fact that we've both seen them in top 5 in scoring at some point at the same time in the NHL this season. I think that's super special. I think it's super cool seeing their names go up against the Nathan McKinnon and a Connor McDavid for the scoring lead throughout parts of the season. Like, I think to me that's something I'm going to remember from 2025. Absolutely.
Yeah, two things you're bang on. Two things I'll add quickly on that. It's when the players are that young, it's funny to see how quickly things change, right? Because they're literally growing before your eyes. And I think back to August being at the Olympic camp and Bedard and Celebrini, by far the youngest two men's players there for Canada. And it was just sort of like, hey, these guys are here for the experience, maybe, but the maybe sort of felt like they'd have to do something that you almost can't imagine to actually make the team. And then here we are a few months later, and it's like, oh yeah, like that was more than just a maybe. The second thing is, I'm not sure we've ever had a moment like this it's just a brief moment in time, but think about it. You still have Crosby and Ovechkin still kind of doing their thing, like almost at 40. And you've got the true superstars, like the mid-range guys in the middle of their careers, the McKinnons, the McDavids, Kucherov. And then you've got these young guys pushing them all at the same time. Like, it's all clumped together, having kind of like all-time legends that are in the making. And then like the next ones, we can't even imagine what these guys can be yet, really. I mean, how high their ceilings go, what they do for the organizations that have drafted them, what they do on the international stage. I mean, they arrive at a time when international hockey's been reborn, right? I mean, it's just so cool. And you're right. 2025 launched them both, I think, in different ways. It took Bedard maybe one extra season than he would have liked, but like, he's here. And Celebrini, as I've said, he's your favorite player's favorite player. I mean, I have not heard more people talk about a player in a long, long time. And he didn't enter the league with maybe as much hype, but anyway, I'm piggybacking on your answer. That's not number 8. That's just my kind of my thoughts on it. Little recency bias with number 8.
Okay.
But I'm going the Quinn Hughes trade.
Ooh, and I like that.
Obviously this is fresh in mind for everyone. I mean, in a very recent episode of this show, we broke down the whole trade. But when I think of it in the context of, people like player movement, we don't see trades of this sort of caliber too often, where you literally have potentially, certainly one of the top guys that is in position still in his prime being moved. And it kind of continues a trend for the Wild of being like, hey, we're tired of being the mid Minnesota Wild, and we're trying to be the elite Minnesota Wild. I don't know. I'm torturing the
Quinnesota. Stick with Quinnesota.
Quinnesota's great, but I'm torturing the headlines here. But you know what I'm saying? They're tired of just being another team that is on the schedule that is pretty good but not great. I mean, they're chasing greatness in Minnesota now, and I have to say, having spent a fair time, I've been to that market a bunch, been to games there, like just amazing fans. I did a podcast, believe it or not, with Michael Russo in Stockholm. And there were 400 Minnesota Wild fans in the bar in Stockholm. They'd all
for Russo. I'm presumably.
Well, I don't want to inflate his ego anymore, Julian. They were there to watch the Global Series games in Stockholm, which Minnesota was playing. Ottawa was there, and Detroit and Toronto as well. So they were there for, I believe, more to see their team play. But while they were there, they're like, oh, here's a chance to see Russo. And anyway, it's kind of surreal to be in a pub on the other side of the world, and there's all these Minnesota Wild fans jamming it, and we're talking about what's going on with the Wild and other things in the league. So anyway, just saying, cool fan base. And I think that team is kind of reshaping what it can be. Obviously, they're in a heavyweight fight right now with the Colorado Avalanche and Dallas Stars. Quinn Hughes has been a great addition in these early days for the Wild. It's been positive, and I think stories like this are good for the league. I think player movement does help create excitement on a broader scale. I think all of a sudden, if you're not already a Wild fan, Minnesota goes from a team you might never think about tuning into a game to being like, oh, what's going on there with Quinn Hughes and Kaprizov, and let's see what else they do. So anyway, I think one of the cool moments is the biggest trade we've seen in a while. And for me, that's Quinn Hughes going from Vancouver to Minnesota. And I should actually just quickly at least hat tip the Canucks end of this, because now there's some interesting players in Vancouver that weren't there, specifically Zed Bouillon. And all of a sudden from the Canucks end, hope springs eternal. What keeps us coming back as sports fans, man? It's either winning or the hope of one day winning. There's a little bit more hope in Vancouver, and there's more wins coming for the Minnesota Wild.
You sell win or you sell hope. Some dude taught me that once. I don't remember who.
Do you know what? It's a pretty good mile marker. Like, it's not a bad thing to look at.
Yeah. By the way, the dude was you. You're the one who taught me that.
I know.
Just there are certain people who are not 100%ers who might not have realized. Anyway.
Do you know what? I'm not going down that road. You all are 100%ers out there. I know it. You've all never doubted us. You've never played us at 2x speed or like fallen asleep with us in your earphones, and you've all just listened to every word for 4 years and 400 episodes or whatever we're at.
Yeah, we are actually getting close to 400 episodes. So, yeah, we are getting close to that milestone, which is crazy. We were celebrating
every last one of you has listened to every damn word. I know it.
Yes, and they will continue to hang on to every word as long as you continue to say those words on the podcast. Anyway, number 9 for me. This might not be a popular one.
Uh-oh.
So, the Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, after a third consecutive run to that cup final. Of course, we've all seen the cup rings. We apologize to no one is engraved there. You remember when Brad Marchand was going around at a team dinner after the fact, and he's taking photos of all the players, and he's tagging all of their former teams on Instagram, being like, hey, thanks for this player.
That was actually amazing.
I thought that was so funny.
We probably didn't really talk about that because we were into free agency.
We talked about it.
But we probably didn't give that its moment. Like, that might have been one of the cleverest things that happened on hockey social media all 2025.
I think that's right up there for me. And it's stuff like that on top of the antics they do get away with on the ice, being physical and frustrating fan bases the world over, that puts me with what I'm about to say. I think that second cup run fully cemented themselves as the top villain in the league. And while you do need good guys, you need villains to sell the game. And I think it is incredible to see a franchise that you could probably go back as far as a decade ago. People were trying to find ways to move them to Quebec City, and people were looking at the fan base in Florida saying, oh, there's no fans there. And it's just, you go down in December when your team is playing, you enjoy a couple days for Christmas time, and then you spend a couple dollars on a ticket and you watch your team play against the Florida Panthers. To know that the Florida Panthers, as constructed, I know they've been banged up this year, but to know that these last few Panthers teams have frustrated fan bases all across the NHL just by being relentless and punishing to opposing teams and firmly establishing themselves as villainous, I have to give them that respect. It just goes to show that if you build the right team, it doesn't matter where you are, you can build a win. I've never heard over the last year, more than any other year I've followed the league, people talk about whether playing in a tax-free state matters. And maybe that was always the case before the Florida Panthers became a thing. But we certainly made it a thing because of them. And people around the league don't like that. And I mean fans when I say this. And that, for me, is why they're worthy of being number 9 on my list. Florida fully establishing themselves as the number one de facto villain in the National Hockey League. If you want to argue about Vegas also still being in that role, I have time to hear that too. But I think Florida's number one.
And here I thought you were just going to lean into the fact they like rallied around Dairy Queen or something that was going to be your... It was going to be like, you loved how they were
part of the charm.
How they were powered by ice cream to win a second straight Stanley Cup.
Ice cream is a motivator.
I mean, I don't think the cup went in the ocean this time, did it?
No, I don't think it. I mean, as far as we know.
Yeah, not on camera the way it did the first time.
Yeah, we don't know about that.
I mean, it certainly spent some time at the elbow room, along with a few hockey writers and basically anyone else who goes to Fort Lauderdale and NHL circles.
I do regret not going to elbow room when I was in the state of Florida earlier this year. That is that's not as high as not attending games from the Four Nations, but that is on my. I don't carry that many regrets. But
you shouldn't build the regret list, man. But here's a New Year's Eve idea. You can watch a live camera at any moment of elbow room. What's going on? So you want New Year's Eve? You want to have it in? Just watch the live camera. What's going on at the elbow room? Like,
oh my God.
Zap that up on your TV, whatever. And it's like you're there.
Zap that up, he says.
Well, I mean,
wow, elbow room live cams. That's actually a thing. This is rather invasive.
I know hockey writers who are not at like a big event when they know there's a big event there that go on those cameras to get screenshots of because they know other hockey writers will be there.
Dog,
not doing anything wrong. Just drinking a beer at the bar. Like it's nothing. Like I'm just saying. Anyway,
I just put it on now. There's like a dude who like. It's not him, but he like kind of looks like Darren Dreger, and he's just hanging out.
It's
like,
not Darren Dreger. Sources
it's not him.
Sources can confirm that Darren Dreger is in Minnesota at the World Junior Tournament as we speak. So everything.
I'm just playing.
Don't be spreading rumors.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, number 10.
Let's do it.
We made it. It kind of bookends yours, but it's a little. I think I've gone hipster again. I'm going with Rogers Place. And when I thought back on the games I went to this year, obviously the Four Nations was special. We hit all over that. But I thought game one of the Cup final for me was one of the that was like a night where I felt something at a game. And, I'm not saying that the whole hockey world necessarily resonated with this or, and obviously Florida ended up winning the series. But there was so much hope in Edmonton when that second Cup opened. And obviously they get a win in game one of the series. And, it just... I got to say, ultimately it's the people that make life special, but it can be like the emotions of the game that stick with you. Right. And I just remember that being such an emotional night in that building. It's like one of those times where almost the hair stands up on your arms. Cause you're like, wow, this is so cool. I remember seeing actually Zach Hyman of all things. Remember he had the broken wrist, in the press box. It just, I don't know. It was like an electric night. And I was thinking back to of the games I went to this year that were not Four Nations, Four Nations aside, that was probably the game I most enjoyed. And I was lucky. I went to a few game sevens. I was at the game 7 in Toronto, Florida and the Leafs. But anyway, Rogers Place really stuck out to me, and I know they didn't win and who knows what's going to come in the future. But, that was one of the coolest things that I personally got to do in 2025. And I'm looking forward to all the big games that come in the year ahead, man. It's we're lucky to be around the sport. We're lucky to do the pod together, and it's the holidays, so I'm reflecting a little bit and just really appreciative of all this, frankly.
Were there any honorable mentions or anything on your anything else on your list you debated mentioning that you didn't get to? I have a few things.
No, you should say yours. I mean, I had Celebrini, and obviously you used that, and I had also had the Ovechkin goal chase, which you used. So weirdly, I made 7, and all 7 got represented in one way or another.
So a few things that I think are worthy of being honorable mentions. Matthew Schaefer's rookie campaign, if you focus on his story and what he's been able to do with the New York Islanders, I think that's worth mentioning. The red versus, not just red versus blue, just any type of color matchups that it looks as if the NHL is trying to encoge more of.
You're a fashionista on this pod. I know it.
I mean, some people
you're
would
in no
debate
competition. You're not getting any competition from me.
Hey, but I do think it's cool. I mentioned red versus blue because I think of the Rangers versus Red Wings matchup from earlier this year. That was super cool to see. If you want to loop in and make it less of like, red versus blue or just specifically with colors, but you want to loop in jerseys from years past, like when we saw the Nordiques and the Whalers go toe-to-toe with each other, obviously Colorado versus Carolina. That was also really cool. The fact that the NHL wants to encourage more of that, I think, is really cool. We did not mention the fact that labor peace was struck, a new collective bargaining agreement.
We don't need to talk about the business. We're talking about the things that make you feel.
Okay, then there's the last thing that's an honorable mention that neither of us mentioned. The Mikko Rantanen trades. I think up until the Quinnesota resurgence came up in December, Rantanen getting moved twice in the same year, that was going to go down as the biggest thing to happen in 2025. That was incredible to see him go to Carolina from Colorado and then to Dallas. And now in that Central Division stacked with Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota, as we mentioned, Mikko Rantanen could still be a problem, particularly for the Colorado Avalanche. I thought that was worthy of an honorable mention. I was very close to adding it to my list, but you can only put 5 for each of us.
That Rantanen Game 7 was pretty special. The other one that I actually thought of, just because it was such a heart-pulling moment, was seeing Mark Scheifele play, the day after his dad died. Unfortunately, obviously, sort of sad circumstances there, but like it was one of the, kind of like Clayton Keller, unfortunately, as well, had to do earlier this season. But, it kind of bookends maybe a little with my Gaudreau item, but, a time where you felt that things that much more important than the sport, but the sport helped provide support for the players. One of those memorable nights, and obviously Scheifele scored in that game that he played. I know the Jets lost, but pretty emotional.
Capitals and the Canadians in the first round of the playoffs last year, the scrapple on the bench, like Tom Wilson being in the middle of all that. That was another cool moment too. We had a Battle of Ontario this year in the playoffs for the first time in a long time, and it almost went to Game 7. That was also that. In terms of moments I was there for, I never thought in my life I would ever be in a situation where I would cover a Battle of Ontario, and I can say I've done it. That was really special to take part of, and of course you were there too. So it was cool. We did it
together, pal. There you go.
Yeah, we did it together. We covered a playoff series together. That's awesome.
All right. Well, here's to many more.
And thank you to everybody who tapped in on all of our episodes throughout 2025. And just we can't thank you enough for supporting this podcast and watching all of these episodes as we climb towards episode number 400. The only other thing I'll say before we wrap up is just if you haven't done so already, I have a book coming out in 2026. Pre-order that. Pre-order Black Aces. I got to plug that because I got to do that in 2025 too. That was also pretty damn cool.
That is cool. Please buy Julian's book and be safe on New Year's Eve. Mix in a water. Don't do anything Uncle CJ wouldn't do.
The Chris Johnston Show. Follow Chris on Twitter @ReporterChris and follow Julian @JKA McKenzie.
The Chris Johnston Show.